Let's just jump right into this explainer with a bit of a reality check. Most of you probably go about your day completely oblivious to the fact that your vibrant red lipstick or, I don't know, your favorite cherry candy is actually colored by crushed bugs. Yeah, tiny parasitic insects, or talking about a biological asset so incredibly valuable that an entire empire literally treated it as a high-stakes state secret just to protect their global monopoly.
Seriously, do you actually know what makes your favorite candy red? Let's be honest here, you probably haven't read the label that closely. It's actually kind of amusing when you think about it. Humanity literally traded a fiercely guarded, high-stakes state secret for everyday convenient food coloring that you just grab at the grocery store without a second thought. But the history behind that red dye, well, it's a completely wild saga of greed, international espionage, and massive ecological devastation.
So let's clarify what we're actually dealing with. The secret ingredient is called cochineal. It's this tiny insect parasite that lives on the prickly pear cactus. Now, the famous prickly pear wasn't exactly valuable as a food crop, not like the winged bean or anything. Historically, its main value was literally just acting as a biological host for this specific bug. Because when you crush these little guys, they produce this incredibly vibrant, permanent red dye. This dye generated such incomprehensible, mind-boggling wealth that the entire globe knew it as red gold.
Section 1. The red gold monopoly.
Try to wrap your head around this. For 2 entire centuries, 200 years, Spain maintained an absolute ironclad lock on the world's red dye supply. Think of this like a historical spy thriller. They grew these massive prickly pear plantations all across the Americas, but they completely restricted what actually left their borders. They only exported the dried bugs to Europe. So they effectively tricked the rest of the world into believing this mysterious red gold came from a fruit or maybe a seed. They hid the bug entirely, just to protect their wildly lucrative economic dominance.
Back then, Spain was basically gaslighting the world, convincing everyone a bug was a plant to protect their market share. And you know what's funny? We have a very similar deception sitting right in your pantry today. Did you know that 99% of modern vanilla is actually just made from wood pulp? It's the exact same type of clever, market-driven illusion, just centuries apart.
Moving on to Section 2, Botanical Espionage.
Of course, secrets like this absolutely do not stay hidden forever. People were desperate to crack the Spanish monopoly and get a piece of that incredible wealth. So they began smuggling prickly pear pads across continents. They literally stole the cactus just so they could steal the bugs. In the late 1700s, smuggling this cactus into Australia to start a local dye industry was a major act of international theft. It actually perfectly parallels modern botanical crimes, like the highly illegal theft of golden kiwi vines from New Zealand to start black market farms. People really go to extremes for plants.
Section 3. The Unstoppable Green Plague. Now, this botanical espionage didn't just break a monopoly. It triggered a completely unchecked biological disaster. Bringing this cactus to Australia was a desperate, completely failed human experiment that stands today as a massive cautionary tale about meddling in nature. Because look, the prickly pear was introduced to an environment with absolutely no natural predators. So it behaved like a pioneer species gone entirely rogue. By the early 1900s, it had exponentially colonized 60 million acres of land. We are talking about an incalculable financial catastrophe for the country.
To really put the sheer scale of this horror into perspective, 60 million acres isn't just a big farm. The dense, thorny thickets of completely useless land created by this cactus were roughly the size of the entire island of Great Britain. Just imagine an entire massive country completely swallowed up by a thick, impenetrable wall of thorns.
I want to ask you this directly and really think about it. If you were a farmer and a literal wall of cactus was visibly swallowing your neighbor's fence every single day, would you stay and fight, or would you just pack your bags? The staggering reality here was that farmers couldn't fight it. They were literally forced to abandon their homes and their entire livelihoods. The land was rendered completely, utterly useless for crops or livestock.
And trust me, it wasn't for lack of trying. Humanity's absolute hubris really showed itself here. We genuinely thought we could just muscle nature into submission. People tried using heavy crushing machines, setting massive fires, literally pouring thousands of tons of deadly arsenic-based poison straight onto the land. And guess what? Absolutely none of it worked. The prickly pear isn't just a tough plant. Its biological traits make it an invincible extremophyte. It's capable of retaining water and surviving toxic, scorched earth conditions that would easily kill almost anything else on the planet.
Oh, and it gets even more absurd. Every broken piece of this plant simply took root and grew into a brand new plant. So farmers drove giant crushing machines over these fields, fully believing they were destroying the cactus. But instead of killing it, Those machines just chopped it up and helped the extremophyte spread even faster. We were literally doing the planting for it. It is just a staggering, unbelievable display of human stupidity.
Let's look at Section 4, Deploying Biological Warfare.
So, by 1925, the Australian government was completely out of options. Since chemical and mechanical attacks utterly failed, they introduced a desperate measure, a South American biological agent called Cactoblastis cactorum. This moth's larvae are biologically engineered by nature to eat the prickly pear from the inside out. This biological relationship is incredibly precise. Think of it like the hyperspecific partnership between the dodo tree and the dodo bird, right? But instead of existing for mutual survival, this relationship is designed for the total destruction of the host plant.
And this sets up an absolutely incredible story of ecological rescue. On one side, you had the destructive, unchecked spread of an extremophyte cactus that effortlessly survived fire and literal arsenic. On the other side, you have this highly successful biological control in the form of a tiny moth. The moth experienced a massive population boom because suddenly it had an endless, completely undefended food supply. It turned out to be the absolute perfect biological control method against an otherwise unstoppable force.
The turnaround here is truly breathtaking. In the late 1700s, the cactus is smuggled in. By the early 1900s, it's a 60 million acre nightmare. In 1925, the moth is finally introduced. And by the late 1920s, literally in just a few short years, billions of moths had completely eaten through the impenetrable green wall. The plague entirely collapsed, and towns that had been swallowed by thorns were literally resurrected from the dirt.
Finally, Section 5, The Secret in Your Kitchen.
Which brings this whole crazy narrative full circle. If you go look at your food labels right now and see carmine or natural red 4, you are looking at that exact same 200-year-old bug juice. We took a cactus used for secret dyes, smuggled it across the world out of pure greed, watched it swallow 60 million acres of land, and then had to unleash a swarm of South American moths just to save an entire continent. And today, we're still casually using that exact same bug juice in our kitchens, while most of us just look at the prickly pear and see a useless weed. Now that's absolutely wild. So the next time you reach for that cherry candy, you've got to ask yourself, what other massive historical secrets are hiding right in plain sight in your pantry?